There's that perfect moment to harvest winter squash. I'm talking about the one that guarantees you get incredible flavor and a squash that'll last for months on your shelf. So in this explainer, we're going to figure out exactly when that moment is and how to spot it.
But let's be real for a second. Have you ever spent a whole season growing this beautiful squash? You put in all that work only to cut it open and find it's just bland, kind of starchy, or even worse, it starts rotting on your counter after just a few weeks? Yeah, it's super frustrating, but it's a problem we can totally solve.
Because here's the secret. The answer isn't about counting days or looking at a calendar. Nope. The plant itself tells you everything you need to know. You just have to learn its language.
So what about those days to maturity numbers on the seed packets? Well, think of them as a ballpark estimate, a good starting point, but that's really all they are. Things like weather, your specific soil, how much sun you got, all of that can speed things up or slow them way down, which makes relying on a calendar date pretty much useless.
So instead, we're going to focus on 3 foolproof signs that the plant gives you. Seriously, once you learn to spot these, you'll never have to guess again. It's like the universal language for, I'm ready, for pretty much all winter squash.
And here they are, the big 3. You're looking for a deep, consistent color, a really hard rind, and a dry, kind of woody-looking stem. Now, the key here isn't to just find one of these signs. You need all 3 to be there, all at the same time. That's the real ticket to a perfect harvest. Okay, first up, color. You want to see a deep, rich color that's got a slightly dull or matte finish. See how this butternut squash has that solid, deep tan? Perfect. Now, if you see any green streaks, or if the skin has a glossy shine to it, that's a huge red flag that it's still immature. All right, sign number 2. And this might be the most important one, the rind hardness test. Just take your thumbnail and press it firmly into the skin. If you can dent it or even leave a little mark, it's not ready. A mature squash rind should feel tough as wood. Your nail should just slide right off without making a dent. That hard shell is what's going to let you store it for months. And finally, take a good look at the stem connecting the squash to the vine. Is it still green and kind of soft? If so, the plant is still pumping nutrients into the fruit. What you want to see is a stem that's completely dry, maybe a little shrunken, and feels woody to the touch. And here's a little bonus tip for you. Check the tiny little curly tendril right next to the stem. If that's all withered and brown, that's another fantastic sign that you're good to go. And as you can see, these rules pretty much apply across the board, just with some small differences. For a butternut, you want that deep tan, and it should be impossible to dent. For an acorn squash, you're looking for a dark, dull green. A spaghetti squash, it needs to be a beautiful golden yellow and tough enough to resist your fingernail, but the core signs, color, hardness, and stem, they always stay the same. Okay, so you've checked all 3 signs, everything looks good. It is go time. This brings us to the next really critical part, the harvest itself. Because how you cut the squash from the vine is honestly just as important as when you cut it. I mean, think about it. You've done all this hard work to get to this point. This is the last big step out in the garden, and getting this right is what separates a squash that lasts you till February from one that's already rotting by Halloween. It's really simple, but it's so important. First, always use a sharp, clean tool, like a good pair of pruning shears. Second, you want to make a clean cut. Never, ever twist or just pull the squash off the vine. And third, and this one is key, leave about 2 to 4 inches of stem attached to the squash. That little piece of stem you leave on, it's not just a handle. Think of it as the squash's own natural seal. If that stem breaks off at the base, you've basically created an open wound, and that's an invitation for bacteria and mold to come right in. An intact stem is your squash's best line of defense. And that brings us to this piece of gardener's gold. It might look like a convenient handle, but trust me, it's way more fragile than you think. If you try to carry a heavy squash by its stem, there's a good chance it'll snap right off. And then you've broken that seal we just talked about. Always, always support the full weight of the squash from the bottom. So, you've got your squash safely inside. Awesome. But wait, the journey is not quite over. This is where the real magic happens. We need to talk about curing. It's this post-harvest step that turns a good squash into an absolutely fantastic one.
So what exactly is curing? It's really just giving your squash a short rest period in a warm, dry, sunny spot for about 1 to 2 weeks. And during this time, two amazing things are happening. The rind is hardening up even more, and inside, the starches are converting into sugars. That's what gives you that incredibly rich, sweet flavor.
Now, not all squash get the same treatment. The ones with thinner skins, like acorn and delicata squash, they only need about 5 to 7 days. Any longer, and you can actually shorten their storage life. But the really tough-skinned varieties, like butternut and Hubbard, they benefit from a full 10 to 14 days to really develop that deep, amazing flavor.
And this is what you get. Perfectly cured squash with super hard rinds and that concentrated sweetness, all ready to be stored away. This one simple step is what guarantees you'll be enjoying that delicious homegrown flavor all winter long.
And that brings us to the best part, the payoff. Seeing that beautiful row of squash lined up in your pantry isn't just about food. It's the delicious reward for all of your patience and your attention to detail.
So let's just quickly recap the big takeaways, right? First, trust the plant. Look for those 3 signs of ripeness: the color, the rind, and the stem. Second, handle with care. Make a clean cut and always leave that stem intact. And finally, never skip the curing process. That's your secret weapon for unlocking the absolute best flavor.
You know, at the end of the day, what we've talked about here is more than just some gardening technique. It's really about listening to what the plant needs. It's just a great reminder that the best results, whether it's in the garden or anywhere else, they always come from patience and just paying careful attention.